The blackness of deep space stretched endlessly around the small patrol ship named Falcon 9. Captain Ryan Cole sat alone in the cockpit, eyes fixed on the blinking lights of the control board. It was another quiet night on the edge of the Virion Belt, a region feared by pilots and travelers. People said ships that entered there never came back, vanishing like dust into the void. But Ryan didn't believe in ghost stories. He believed in science, logic, and his own flying skills. He was scanning for rogue debris when his radar picked up a faint signal. At first he thought it was static, but then he heard it. A weak voice breaking through the noise. It wasn't human, it wasn't robotic, it was soft and trembling, almost like a whisper carried by the stars. Save me. Please, save me, and I'll devote my life to you forever. Ryan froze, his hand hovering over the communication panel. He replayed the message again and again, his pulse quickening each time. The voice sounded scared, desperate yet somehow full of hope. He checked the coordinates. The signal came from deep inside the Virion Belt. That place was filled with violent magnetic storms and collapsing energy fields. Any ship that entered without protection was torn apart within minutes. His training told him to report it and stay away, but his heart whispered something else. Ryan had seen enough suffering in his years of space duty, and if someone was out there, he couldn't just ignore it. He flipped a few switches and pushed his thrusters forward, steering the Falcon 9 toward the source. The stars outside began to twist and bend as the ship entered the storm. Lightning-like energy flashed across his windows, painting the cockpit with colors that no human eye had ever seen before. Alarms screamed as the hull temperature spiked. But Ryan kept his hands steady, his eyes sharp. Come on. Hold together, he muttered to his ship. He felt the vibrations under his seat, the kind that meant something powerful was nearby. Through the chaos, a small glowing object appeared ahead. Spinning wildly in the storm, Ryan zoomed in with his scanner. It was a pod, about the size of a human body. Its energy readings were unstable, its structure cracking under the magnetic pressure. He could see through the glass, and inside was a figure. It looked almost human. A woman with silver skin and long white hair floating around her like silk in water. Her eyes were closed, her body still, and the faint signal was coming from her. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. An alien, he whispered. And she's alive. He had only seconds to act. The magnetic storm was growing stronger, pulling everything into a vortex if he stayed too long. The Falcon 9 would be crushed, but if he left now, she would die. He locked onto the pod with his grappler and pulled it toward the cargo bay. The strain shook the entire ship. Panels sparked, lights flickered, and his controls screamed warnings. Ryan gritted his teeth and shouted over the noise. Come on, don't give up on me now. With one final pull, the pod slammed into the bay and sealed shut. Ryan quickly punched the escape sequence, firing all engines at once. The Falcon 9 shot out of the storm like a bullet through smoke, flames of energy chasing behind. The entire ship shook then, silence, deep, heavy silence. Ryan exhaled, hands trembling on the controls. That was close, he whispered. He turned off the alarms and checked the rear view. The storm faded behind them, shrinking into darkness. Curiosity pushed him toward the cargo bay. He grabbed his helmet and floated through the narrow hallway. When the bay doors opened, the pod sat there, cracked. Glowing faintly from within, he stepped closer and saw the alien girl's eyes flutter open. They were bright, not like human eyes, but like stars seen through water. Her lips moved, and the same soft voice he heard earlier came again. Thank you for saving me, she whispered, her voice weak but full of emotion. Ryan knelt beside the pod. Who are you? He asked gently. She blinked slowly, struggling to speak. My name is Lyra. Then she reached out her hand, her fingers brushing his glove, and added in a trembling voice, You saved me, and I will devote my life to you forever. For a long moment, Ryan said nothing. The weight of her words hung in the air like a promise carried by the stars. He didn't know who she was or what kind of trouble he had just invited onto his ship. But something deep inside him told him this was the beginning of something far greater than he could imagine. As he looked out the window, lightning from the dying storm flashed one last time across the dark horizon, and for just a second he thought he saw a shadow. A dark ship, hidden beyond the light, watching them. Ryan's jaw tightened. We're not alone out here, he muttered. He didn't know that his act of mercy had already changed the fate of two worlds. And somewhere in the silent cold of space, the storm whispered back, "The bond has begun." Ryan stood quietly in the dim light of the cargo bay, the air filled with a soft hum from the alien pod. The silver-skinned girl lay inside, her chest rising slowly, her body glowing faintly with pulses of blue light. He could still hear her words echoing in his mind. "I will devote my life to you forever." He didn't know what to think. He was a soldier, not a hero. And yet here he was, holding a promise from a creature who wasn't even human. The ship's AI crackled through the speakers. "Captain Cole, her life signs are unstable. Oxygen level dropping rapidly." Ryan grabbed a medkit and opened the pod carefully. A rush of cold air hit his face. Lyra gasped, her fingers twitching as she opened her eyes, light shimmering in her pupils like liquid silver. Ryan helped her sit up gently, his hand steady though his heart raced. "It's all right, you're safe now," he said quietly. Though he wasn't sure it was true, she looked around the cargo bay, confused, weak but alert. This is not my world," she whispered, her voice like a distant melody. Ryan nodded. "You're aboard the Falcon 9, a human ship. I'm Captain Ryan Cole." Her gaze softened when she heard his name. "Ryan," she repeated, testing the sound like it was something sacred. He tried to keep his tone calm. "You were trapped inside that storm. What happened to you?" Lyra looked down, her hands trembling, faint lights running beneath her skin like living veins of energy. "My people were hunted," she said slowly. "They wanted our power, the light that keeps our worlds alive." She raised her palm, and a small blue glow floated above it, pure energy. Warm and alive, Ryan stepped back slightly. "Mazed, what is that?" "It is my life force," she said softly. "It connects me to my kind, and now—" "It connects me to you," Ryan frowned. "To me? What do you mean?" "When you pulled me from the storm—" "Our energies linked," Lyra explained. "If I die, that bond will break." "And you may die too." The words hit him like a meteor. He didn't speak for a few seconds, just stared at her. "So you're saying—" "My life is tied to yours?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, until the balance is restored. Or until one of us fades." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of it. "Great, I save you. And now I'm cursed," he muttered under his breath. But Lyra's expression wasn't offended. It was sad. "I did not choose this either," she said quietly. "But I will not let harm come to you." Before he could answer, a loud alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed along the corridor. The AI's voice turned sharp. "Warning, unidentified ships detected, closing fast." Ryan rushed to the control deck, Lyra following slowly, still weak but curious. Through the cockpit window, 3 black shapes appeared. Ships with sharp edges and red glowing engines. "They found me," Lyra whispered, fear tightening her voice. Ryan turned to her. "Who are they?" "The Dravok hunters," she said. "They destroyed my people. They want my energy." "My core." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Well, they picked the wrong ship today." He jumped into the pilot's seat and powered up the thrusters. The ship roared to life. Lyra gripped the edge of the console, her glow brightening as the enemy ships drew closer. Blasts of plasma energy cut through the darkness, striking near the hull, shaking the Falcon 9. Ryan twisted the ship through the asteroid belt, sharp rocks spinning past them like knives. He fired the defense cannons, taking out one of the attackers in a burst of light. The other 2 followed, faster, angrier, raining fire upon them. "Shields at 50%, the AI warned. "Structural damage detected." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Not today," he growled, turning sharply between 2 massive asteroids. Suddenly, Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing like twin stars. She raised her hand, and for a moment, the entire ship filled with blue light. Outside, the enemy's targeting systems went dark. Their engines flickered, and one of them exploded into dust. Ryan stared at her, amazed. "What did you just do?" "I connected with the energy around us," Lyra said weakly. "But it takes strength I no longer have." She collapsed to her knees, her body dimming. Ryan caught her before she hit the ground, holding her close as alarms still blared in the background. "Stay with me," he said, his voice firm but filled with worry. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "I am yours now, until the stars fade." The final enemy ship retreated into the dark, vanishing beyond radar range. Ryan carried Lyra to the med room and placed her gently on the bed. He sat beside her, watching as the blue light under her skin flickered softly like a heartbeat. He realized that what started as a simple rescue was becoming something far more dangerous. But as he looked at her sleeping face, he also felt something else. A strange sense of connection. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone in the endless dark of space. He touched the glass near her hand and whispered, "Whoever you are, I'll keep you safe." And somewhere outside, hidden among the stars, a massive shadowy warship began to move. Its captain, cloaked in darkness, watched Ryan's small vessel through red glowing eyes and whispered, "The human has taken the last Farine. This changes everything." The stars outside burned cold and distant as the Falcon 9 drifted through the black silence of space. Ryan sat in the cockpit, staring at the damage reports flashing on his screens. Cracked hull, low fuel, weakened shields. His ship had seen better days. Lyra was resting in the med bay, her breathing soft, her body still glowing faintly under the pale blue lights. Every time he looked at her, he couldn't help but remember her words, "I am yours now, until the stars fade." He didn't understand why she had said that, or what kind of bond truly connected them, but he felt it deep inside, like a pulse that echoed between them, unseen but powerful. He took a slow breath and leaned back in his chair, the silence of space pressing against the glass. But the silence didn't last long. The ship's AI suddenly spoke, its voice calm but urgent. "Captain Cole, multiple signals detected bearing 170. Distance closing fast." Ryan frowned. "How many?" "6 ships," the AI replied, "unidentified, moving in attack formation." Ryan's heart sank. He didn't need a scan to guess who they were. "The Devote hunters," he muttered. "They've found us again." He rushed to the med bay, where Lyra slowly opened her eyes as if she had already sensed the danger. "They're here," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet fear. Ryan nodded. "Yeah, I noticed. You think you can use that energy thing again?" Lyra shook her head weakly. "Not yet. It will take time for my strength to return." Ryan sighed. "Then we'll have to survive the old-fashioned way." He hurried back to the cockpit, switching power from life support to shields. The Falcon 9 hummed, preparing for battle. Outside, 6 black ships emerged from the shadows, sharp and cold like blades of steel. Each one carried the crimson symbol of the Devote Empire, a mark feared across 1,000 systems. A deep voice echoed through the comms. "Human vessel, you are harboring a fugitive of the Devote Dominion. Surrender her or be destroyed." Ryan smirked. "Sorry, your message is breaking up," he said. Cutting the line, the first volley of plasma blasts struck. Shaking the ship violently, alarms screamed, panels sparked. The control board flickered red. Ryan gritted his teeth, fighting to keep control as debris spun around them. The AI shouted, "Shields at 40%. Hull integrity compromised." Ryan pushed the thrusters to full power, diving between 2 enemy ships. Firing back with everything he had, the cannons roared, bright streaks of light cutting through the darkness. He hit one of the Devote ships dead center, watching it explode in a burst of blue fire. But 5 more surrounded him, moving in perfect coordination, like predators closing in on their prey. Lyra appeared behind him, her steps weak but her eyes glowing brighter. "You can't fight them all," she said softly, her voice trembling but certain. Ryan didn't look back. "Watch me," he said, steering through a cloud of debris. But Lyra placed her hand on the console, and suddenly, the ship's power reading spiked. "What are you doing?" Ryan asked. "I am giving you part of my energy," she replied. "Use it wisely." The Falcon 9 blazed with light, its engines roaring with new strength. Ryan smiled. "Now we're talking." He turned sharply and fired again, his shots faster, stronger, each beam cutting through enemy shields like paper. 2 more Devote ships fell, their burning wrecks drifting into the endless dark. But the lead ship remained, larger, darker, and far more dangerous. It fired a massive energy beam that tore through the asteroid field, missing Ryan's ship by inches. The shockwave sent the Falcon 9 spinning, alarms blaring as gravity systems failed. Ryan hit his head against the console, blood trickling down his temple. "Ryan!" Lyra shouted, grabbing his arm, her touch sending warmth through his body. The glow in her skin flared and the wound on his head began to close slowly. He looked at her in awe. "You can heal people?" She nodded faintly. "Only those connected to me. You are part of my energy now." The lead Devote ship opened comms again, a cold mechanical voice filling the cockpit. Human, you have no idea what you are protecting. The Vereen are not innocent. They are weapons made of light. And she is the last of her kind. Ryan's hands tightened on the controls. Then maybe you should have left her alone. He shut off the channel and charged straight toward the enemy. Lyra placed both hands on the control board, her energy flowing into the ship, merging human metal with alien light. The Falcon 9 glowed like a newborn star as it sliced through space. Ryan fired the main cannon, hitting the Dravok ship head-on. A massive explosion lit up the void, pieces of metal scattering like fireflies in the dark. The silence that followed was heavy. Only the hum of the engines remained. Ryan leaned back, breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly. Lyra sat beside him, weak but alive, her glow fading to a gentle shimmer. "You risked everything for me," she said softly. "Why?" Ryan looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Because I couldn't just watch you die." For a moment, she said nothing. Her silver eyes locked on his. Then she whispered, "You're different from others, Ryan Cole. Your heart shines brighter than any star." He gave a small smile. "Yeah, well, don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation to keep." Lyra smiled faintly, and for a brief second, the darkness outside didn't feel so endless. But far away, hidden in the shadows of a dying sun, another Dravok ship watched silently. Its commander stood tall, cloaked in black armor, his red eyes glowing with rage. "The humans survived," he growled. "Prepare the fleet next time we bring the storm with us." And as his ship vanished into hyperspace, the stars around Ryan's small vessel seemed to flicker with warning. The real hunt had just begun. The Falcon 9 floated quietly through the endless black sea of stars, drifting between the remains of shattered moons and broken metal. For the first time in hours, there were no alarms. No gunfire, no chasing ships, only silence. Ryan sat at the controls, his hands still trembling slightly from the last battle. His eyes were fixed on the glass screen that showed the vast emptiness ahead, but his thoughts were far from calm. Every time he blinked, he saw flashes of Lyra's light, the way she had poured her energy into the ship, the way her eyes had glowed when she saved him. He had seen many strange things in his years of service, but nothing like her. Nothing so alive. In the medbay, Lyra lay resting, her body surrounded by a faint blue aura that pulsed softly. Ryan entered quietly, the automatic door sliding open with a whisper. He placed a small blanket over her and stood beside her bed, studying the patterns of light running through her skin. She looked peaceful, almost human. But there was something ancient about her, something that felt like it had seen 1,000 suns rise and fall. After a few minutes, her eyes opened slowly, and that familiar, gentle glow filled the room again. "Ryan," she said softly, her voice warm and calm. "You didn't sleep." He shook his head. "Hard to sleep when you're being hunted by space monsters," he said with a half-smile. Lyra smiled faintly. "You are brave, but tired," she whispered. "Your energy feels heavy." Ryan sat on the chair beside her, rubbing the back of his neck. "You keep talking about energy. What do you mean by that?" Lyra sat up slowly, her hands glowing as she moved. "It is what gives us life. It flows through every living thing. But the Vereen, my people, I could control it." She looked at him with sad eyes. "That is why the Dravok hunted us. They wanted to use our power to build weapons that could destroy worlds." Ryan frowned. "Weapons? You mean your people's energy could be used to kill?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, if taken by force. It becomes unstable and violent. The Dravok tried to harvest it. They burned planets trying to make it obey." She paused, her voice trembling. "I was one of the last born with the pure light, the kind that could heal instead of destroy." Ryan leaned forward, listening closely. "And that's why they want you." "Yes," she whispered, "they want my core, the crystal inside me that holds the Vereen light. If they get it, they can reignite their war engines and bring death to every system." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the ship filling the silence, Ryan stared at her, realizing the scale of what she carried inside her. He had thought she was just another refugee, someone running from danger. But now he understood. She was the key to something far greater. "If that's true," he said quietly, "then saving you might have just started a war." Lyra lowered her eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered. "You should have left me to the storm." Ryan shook his head sharply. "That's not who I am," he said, his tone firm. "I don't leave people to die. Not human, not alien, no one." Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. You have a strong heart. Ryan Cole, she said. Your soul burns bright. He gave a small laugh. Tell that to the Dravok. But before either of them could say more, the ship's AI interrupted. Captain, we are approaching an uncharted planet. Possible energy readings detected, Ryan stood. Show me. The main screen flickered on, displaying a small world surrounded by mist and floating rocks, its surface glowing faintly with blue light. Lyra's eyes widened. That is not just any planet, she said, her voice filled with awe. It's a Vereen sanctuary, one of the hidden worlds of my kind. Ryan looked at her, surprised. You mean there might be others like you down there? Lyra shook her head slowly. No, it's empty now. But the core of the planet may still hold the memory of my people. She closed her eyes, feeling the pull of its energy. It calls to me, she whispered. It wants to tell us something. Ryan hesitated. If it's Vereen, the Dravok might detect it too. Lyra nodded. Then we must be fast. They guided the ship through the misty atmosphere, lightning flashing across the clouds. The planet's surface was breathtaking. Glowing crystals rose like towers. Rivers of light flowed through cracked ground, and strange music seemed to echo in the wind. Lyra stepped out of the ship, her feet touching the glowing soil, her energy merging with the world around her. Blue light rose from the ground, swirling around her like a dance of memories. Ryan watched, amazed, as shapes began to form, visions of tall, elegant beings with eyes of fire and hearts of light. The ancient Vereen? Lyra's voice trembled. They're showing me what happened. The images turned dark, Dravok warships descending, cities burning, screams of light fading into shadow. Ryan clenched his fists. Feeling the anger rise in his chest, Lyra fell to her knees, tears glowing as they rolled down her silver cheeks. They took everything from us, she whispered. My family, my home. Ryan knelt beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. She looked up at him, her expression fragile but strong. No, she said. Not anymore. The ground suddenly shook beneath them, the planet's light flickering violently. The AI's voice echoed from the ship. Warning, multiple Dravok ships approaching from orbit. Ryan's eyes widened. They found us again. Lyra stood, her glow intensifying, her eyes fierce with new resolve. Then they will see what the last Vereen truly is, she said, her voice no longer trembling but powerful and clear. Ryan stared at her, the soft healer now standing like a warrior of light. He smiled faintly. Guess we're not leaving quietly. She turned to him and nodded. Together, she said. And as the sky above filled with the red fire of descending warships, the ground beneath them began to pulse with ancient energy. The secret within her and within this forgotten world was about to awaken. The sky above the glowing planet split open with red fire as Dravok ships pierced through the clouds, their engines roaring like thunder. Ryan and Lyra stood on the crystal plains, their shadows stretching long across the shining ground. The air trembled with energy, blue light swirling around Lyra as if the planet itself was alive and responding to her presence. Ryan, she said quietly, her voice firm. They are coming for my core. Ryan nodded, his jaw set. Then we don't give them the chance. He grabbed her hand and ran toward the Falcon 9, dust and light rising in their wake. Behind them, the first plasma blasts hit the surface, tearing open the ground, sending waves of crystal shards flying through the air. The shockwave threw them forward, but Ryan rolled and pulled Lyra up again, refusing to let go. They reached the ramp just as another explosion tore through the valley, lighting up the entire horizon. The ship's AI activated the defense shields automatically. Captain, 6 enemy ships detected. Closing in from orbit. Ryan jumped into the pilot's seat, his fingers flying over the controls. Then we're going through them. Lyra held onto the railing, her glowing hair flowing behind her like threads of light. The Falcon 9 blasted off, flames erupting beneath it as it shot into the clouds. Lightning from the planet's energy storms crackled around them, lighting up Lyra's skin in flashes of blue and silver. Ryan's voice cut through the chaos. Hold tight. The ship broke through the atmosphere and entered open space, the stars stretching around them like endless trails of light. But the Dravok fleet was already waiting, red streaks of fire chasing them from behind. Evasive pattern Delta 4, Ryan commanded, and the AI instantly adjusted the thrusters. The ship spun sharply, rolling through the void as plasma bolts shot past them, each one bright enough to blind. Lyra closed her eyes and focused, her palms glowing as she extended her energy into the ship's systems. "I can help," she said softly. "I can make the engines faster." Ryan glanced at her. "Do it!" The Falcon 9 surged forward like a comet, blue flames bursting from its engines as it tore through the battlefield. But the Dravok weren't giving up, their commander. Hidden within the largest warship, growled, "Lock all weapons. No mercy for the human." A massive barrage of energy fire rained down. Shaking the entire sector, Ryan dodged, twisted, and flew through the chaos, his training and instinct guiding every move. Lyra felt his determination like a heartbeat through their strange bond. She could feel his fear too, buried under his focus. But stronger than both was his resolve. He wasn't fighting to survive anymore, he was fighting to protect her. "Ryan," Lyra said suddenly, "head for the knee-bar rift." "The what?" He shouted over the noise. "It's a wormhole," she said. "Unstable but hidden, the Dravok won't follow. Their ships will break apart." Ryan hesitated only for a second, then nodded. "Mark it." A glowing path appeared on his display, a trail of light deep into the unknown. He grinned. "Let's see how brave these guys really are." The Falcon 9 turned sharply, diving toward the rift, a swirling vortex of blue and black energy twisting ahead like a living storm. The Dravok ships followed, firing nonstop, their red light painting the darkness. One of their shots hit the Falcon 9. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew across the cockpit. "Shields failing," the AI warned. Ryan gritted his teeth. "Not yet." Lyra placed her hands on the console, pouring her energy into the ship again, her body glowing brighter than ever. The controls stabilized. The engines roared back to full power, and Ryan flew straight into the heart of the rift. The moment they entered, the stars disappeared. Replaced by spinning lights and distortion, the ship twisted violently. Gravity pulling in every direction, Ryan fought the controls, his muscles aching, his breath coming fast. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering in her native language, her voice calm amid the chaos. The vortex howled around them like a living beast, but somehow they made it through. When the ship finally emerged, the stars returned, different stars, colder and unfamiliar. Ryan exhaled, leaning back in exhaustion. "Well," he said between breaths. "That was fun." Lyra smiled weakly. "We are safe. For now." Ryan looked out the window, scanning the unknown sector. "Where are we?" Lyra walked to the glass, her reflection glowing softly against the darkness. "Far beyond the Dravok borders," she said. "A forgotten part of the galaxy," the AI confirmed. "Unknown coordinates, no records in the human database," Ryan sighed. "Great, we're off the map." Lyra turned to him. "Maybe that's what we need to start again." They spent hours repairing the ship, patching the hull and restoring the shields. Ryan worked quietly, focused, while Lyra helped by channeling her light into the damaged circuits. At one point, Ryan looked up and said, "You know, you glow more when you're concentrating." She smiled softly. "And you talk too much when you're nervous." He laughed, a sound that felt rare and real after all the chaos. For a moment, they weren't pilot and alien, soldier and fugitive, just two lost souls finding comfort in each other's presence. But the peace didn't last long. Lyra suddenly froze, her glow flickering, her eyes turning distant. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked quickly. "They're tracking us," she whispered. "They can still feel me through the bond we share." Ryan frowned. "So that's how they keep finding us." She nodded. "Yes, my core connects across space. They can sense it, even from galaxies away." Ryan's mind raced. "Then we need to find a way to hide that signal." Lyra looked at him, fear mixing with hope. "There is a way, but it's dangerous." Ryan leaned closer. "How dangerous?" She hesitated, then whispered, "If we fail, both of us could vanish." Ryan's eyes met hers, calm and steady. "Then we won't fail." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, the faintest smile touching her lips. "You trust too easily," she said softly. He shrugged. "Maybe. But it's kept us alive so far, outside." The stars shimmered faintly as if listening. The Falcon 9 moved quietly into the dark. Two lights, one human, one alien, flying together through a galaxy that was watching their every move. The chase wasn't over, not even close. It was only changing shape. The stars around them began to fade, replaced by a thick fog of space dust and dark energy. Ryan slowed the ship, his eyes narrowing as the navigation screen flickered with static. "Where are we?" he muttered, his fingers tapping the controls. Lyra stood beside him, her glow dimmer than before. This region was once a thriving system, she said softly. But something destroyed it. The view ahead cleared slightly, revealing a shattered planet. Its surface cracked and hollow. Floating in silence, Ryan stared at the remains, the massive fragments slowly orbiting each other, glowing faintly with traces of atmosphere. It looks dead, he said quietly. Lyra nodded. Not just dead, she whispered, erased. Her voice trembled slightly, as if she could feel the echoes of what had happened there. Ryan felt the hairs on his neck rise. Let's check it out, he said, and guided the Falcon 9 toward the surface as they descended. Lightning flashed across the planet's broken horizon. Ruined cities lay beneath a layer of ash, silent towers leaning like bones under the weight of time. The ship landed near what used to be a great spire, its top shattered and half buried in sand. Ryan grabbed his blaster, checked the atmosphere readings, and opened the hatch. The air was thin but breathable, the wind carrying whispers that sounded almost alive. Lyra stepped out slowly, her feet touching the dusty ground, her eyes scanning the ruins with sadness. This world belonged to my kind once, she said softly. Ryan looked at her, surprised. Your people did this? She shook her head, her voice heavy. No, this is what happens when the core inside one of us loses control. Ryan frowned. Like yours? Lyra looked away. Yes, if my bond to the energy becomes unstable, it can destroy everything around me. Ryan felt a chill. So, this place was destroyed by someone like you? Lyra nodded slowly. Her name was Ceres, my ancestor. She tried to save her people but became too powerful, too consumed by sorrow. Her glow flickered faintly. They called her the Fallen Star. Ryan listened quietly, watching her as the wind blew strands of her glowing hair across her face. She looked fragile, yet something inside her felt infinite, ancient and lonely, he finally said. Then maybe this place has something we can use to stop the Dravok from tracking you. Lyra turned toward him, hope flickering in her eyes. Maybe. Yes. She closed her eyes, placing her hands on the ground, and the ruins around them began to hum with faint blue light. The energy here is still alive, she whispered. I can feel it. Ryan knelt beside her. Can you control it? Lyra opened her eyes. I can try, but it's dangerous. This power once destroyed a world. Ryan gave her a small smile. Then we'll make sure it saves one this time. She smiled back faintly. And together they started searching through the ruins inside a broken temple. The air shimmered with strange symbols carved into the walls. Lyra traced them with her fingers, her eyes glowing brighter. These runes describe how Ceres sealed her power before she vanished, she said. Ryan looked around. So if we can find that seal, maybe it can hide your core from the Dravok, Lyra nodded. Yes, but we must be careful. The ground suddenly rumbled beneath them and a deep roar echoed through the temple. Ryan raised his blaster. What was that? Lyra's glow flickered. This world still has guardians, energy forms left behind to protect the seal. The air shimmered, and from the shadows emerged a creature made of light and dust, its form shifting like smoke and fire. It had no face, only glowing eyes that stared straight into them. Ryan took a step back. That thing doesn't look friendly. Lyra stood tall, her hands glowing with blue energy. It's not meant to be. It tests the worth of those who seek the seal. Ryan sighed. Of course it does. The creature lunged, moving like lightning. Ryan fired. But the shots passed through it harmlessly. Lyra raised her hands, meeting its attack with a pulse of energy. The impact shook the temple, sending debris flying. Ryan ducked, shouting, Lyra! She was surrounded by light, her body hovering slightly above the ground. The guardian roared again, slamming into her barrier, but Lyra held strong, her face calm and determined. Ryan, she said through the chaos. It's feeding on fear. Stay close. Don't let it sense yours. Ryan ran forward. Standing beside her, his blaster lowered, his focus steady. The creature hesitated, its light flickering. Lyra's glow grew brighter, surrounding both of them. With one final pulse of blue light, the guardian dissolved into dust, fading into the air like a sigh. Silence filled the temple. Ryan looked around, panting. Is it over? Lyra nodded, her voice soft. Yes, it accepted us. The floor beneath them opened, revealing a hidden chamber glowing with crystal light. At its center was a floating orb, the seal of Ceres. The fallen star? Lyra stepped forward carefully, her expression a mix of awe and fear. She reached out her hand, and the orb responded, glowing brighter. Energy swirled around her. Wrapping her in ribbons of light, Ryan watched, ready to pull her back if anything went wrong. Lyra's voice trembled. This power, it's beautiful and terrible. The chamber shook as she absorbed part of the energy into her core. When the light faded, Lyra was on her knees, breathing hard. Her glow now stronger and steadier, Ryan rushed to her side. You okay? She smiled weakly. Yes. And I think they can't find me anymore. Ryan let out a deep breath of relief. Good, because I'm getting tired of running. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining softly. You saved me again, he chuckled. Yeah, I'm starting to make a habit of it. But deep in the ruins, something stirred unseen, an echo of Ceres's power awakening. Watching, waiting. Lyra felt it faintly, a whisper in her mind, calling her name from across the void. For now they were safe, but the fallen world had not revealed all its secrets yet, and the storm that was coming would test both their hearts and their bond beyond anything they had faced before. The silence of the fallen world was heavy, broken only by the low hum of ancient energy beneath the surface. Ryan and Lyra stood near the edge of the glowing chamber, the seal of Ceres still pulsing with faint light behind them. Lyra's body glowed brighter than before, her energy calm but deep like a quiet ocean. Ryan watched her carefully, his heart uneasy. You sure you're okay? He asked softly. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, she whispered. But something has changed. Ryan frowned. Changed how? Lyra looked at her hands, blue light flickering between her fingers. I can feel Ceres, she said quietly. Her memories, her sorrow, everything. Ryan stepped closer. You mean the one who destroyed this world? Lyra nodded. She wasn't evil, she said. She was desperate. She tried to save her people. But the power inside her became too strong. It consumed her. Her voice trembled slightly. And now her voice is inside me. Ryan's expression hardened. Can she control you? Lyra shook her head. Not yet, but she's awake. Before Ryan could speak again, the ship's AI broke through the silence. Warning! Multiple warp signatures detected. Ryan turned sharply toward the exit. They found us again. Lyra's glow flickered. That's impossible. The seal should have hidden me. Ryan checked the scanners. Maybe it worked, but someone else is calling them. The ground trembled, and a massive light erupted from the cracked horizon outside. A beam of red energy shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. A signal. Ancient and powerful. Lyra's eyes widened. That's not Dravok tech, she whispered. That's Ceres's awakening. Outside, the once dead world began to move, the ruins shaking as the buried temples cracked open. Energy flowed across the planet like veins of fire, connecting every ruin, every crystal, every piece of broken sky. Ryan ran to the ship's hatch. We need to go now, Lyra followed. But her steps slowed, her gaze fixed on the rising energy. She's calling me, she said. Almost in a trance, Ryan grabbed her arm. Lyra, don't listen to it. But she turned to him with glowing eyes. If I don't answer, the planet will collapse. The air around them shimmered with power, and a soft ancient voice whispered through the wind. Daughter of light, fulfill what I could not. Ryan could feel the voice too, deep, echoing through the air like it came from everywhere at once. The ground split open, revealing a massive core beneath the surface. Swirling with blue and red light, Lyra stepped closer, her glow pulsing in rhythm with the core. Ryan, she said softly, I think this is what she wanted me to find. Ryan shook his head. This is suicide, Lyra. That thing's unstable. She smiled faintly. So am I, before he could stop her. She floated into the air, drawn toward the core, her body surrounded by ribbons of light. Ryan shouted, Lyra! And jumped forward, grabbing her hand. For a moment, their eyes met, his full of fear, hers full of calm. Trust me, she whispered. Like you always have. Light exploded around them. Swallowing everything, Ryan closed his eyes, feeling his body lifted into weightlessness, the sound of 1,000 voices filling his head. Images flashed before him, Lyra's past, her people, their rise and fall, their desperate plea to save themselves from their own power. And at the center of it all, Ceres, the fallen star, her eyes glowing like fire, her voice soft and sorrowful. You carry my burden, she said to Lyra. But you can break the cycle. The light dimmed slowly, and Ryan opened his eyes to find himself floating in the air with Lyra beside him. The planet was glowing below them, no longer broken but whole. Healed by the energy she had released, Lyra's body shone brighter than ever. her form almost translucent. "Lyra," Ryan said quietly, reaching out to her. "What's happening?" She smiled gently. "I gave part of my core to restore this world," she said. "It was the only way to stop Ceres's awakening." Ryan shook his head, panic rising. "No, you can't." She touched his face lightly, her fingers warm and glowing. "Ryan," she whispered, "you saved me when no one else would. You gave me purpose. Now it's my turn to save you." Tears stung his eyes. "You don't have to do this," Lyra smiled. "Yes, I do." The ground far below shimmered as the last of the energy settled. The ruins were gone, replaced by green valleys and soft light. The planet alive again. Lyra's form began to fade, her glow spreading into the air like dust made of stars. Ryan reached for her, but his hand passed through her light. "Lyra!" he shouted. Her voice echoed softly. "I will always be with you." The light wrapped around him gently, and then it was gone. Silence returned. Ryan stood alone on the surface of the reborn world. The wind warm and calm. He looked at the horizon, where the sun rose over a sea of clouds. The ship's AI spoke quietly. "Captain, her energy signature has merged with the planet." Ryan didn't answer, he just watched the sunrise. A faint smile on his face somewhere in the breeze. He could almost hear her voice again. "Save me, and I'll devote my life to you forever." And in that moment he realized she had kept her promise, not just to him but to the universe. He climbed aboard the Falcon 9. His hands steady before taking off, he looked back one last time. The planet glowed softly, alive and peaceful. Like a heartbeat in the stars, Ryan whispered, "Goodbye, Lyra." Then the ship lifted into the sky, flying through the dawn. One man, one ship, and the memory of an alien girl who had become his light. The galaxy stretched before him, endless, silent and waiting. And though Lyra was gone, Ryan knew he was no longer alone because her promise still echoed through the stars, guiding him toward whatever came next.